Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and invite everyone to rise and join the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start out with a roll call. Thomas here, Bottoма.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Lothar.
Here.
And Schultz.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Now the agenda approval. Any changes from staff on the agenda? I believe you had something, Brad.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, one item. Item 9A is a job offer for maintenance worker. I would ask that that be removed from the agenda tonight. We have a few more steps we'd like to do with the background process, and we were hopeful to get it done by this evening, but we're not. We never want to rush a hiring process, so if you'd pull that off, we'd appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else? Anything from council? Additions, subtractions, clarifications? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with item 9A removed as presented.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bottoма.
Aye.
Lothar.
Aye.
Nichols.
Aye.
And Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Commission representatives tonight are Mr. Shulak and Phil Christensen is on the list for it. I don't know if he's here or not, but
Mr. Mayor, I did get an email from Phil about an hour ago. Sounds like he's single parenting, so he's managing bedtime and trying to get on at some point tonight on the call.
okay. Well, if he shows up, he can. And he wishes to talk, he can get Jessica's attention, I guess. So, okay, open forum. Okay, at this point in time, anyone who wishes to speak on open forum will be recognized by Jessica, and she'll put you on. This is for anything that's not on the agenda. If there's items on the agenda, you'll have an opportunity to, as they come up, to comment on them. So, anything not on the agenda for open forum, let Jessica know, and she'll put you on.
Well, thanks, Mayor. If you're wanting to speak, you can use the *9 button on your phone, or you click the participants button at the bottom of your screen and click raise hand. It does look like we have one raised hand. It would be a caller ending in 8839. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and if you could say your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Jessica. That's D. Sakura at 6410 Elm Street. And this evening, I would just like to make some clarifications for the open forum I participated in on November 12th. I had mentioned the fact that Lennar does not sell the homes they build, and it was put in the meeting information that I just mentioned, townhomes, but I wanted it clarified that Lennar brings in representatives that make their sales of empty houses for everything, not just townhomes, every house. And right now they have a number of empty homes. Secondly, I'd like to reiterate that the residents would like to know about the Elm Creek watershed report that was supposedly done this summer for the Wessel area, the 116 Hackamore area. And I haven't seen that on the website or anything. And wondering if that report is going to be posted, if we're going to get a chance to look at it. And thirdly, thank you, Dorothy, from every resident in Corcoran, for being so tenacious, for hanging in there, for going through all these groups that you have. You're an excellent example of participating in your community. And the residents, thank you. So that's all this evening. Have a good evening.
Okay, thanks, Dee. I guess on the watershed thing, Brad, if you get back to Dee, if you have anything on that, or if there's an issue, you can bring that up at some future time, I guess.
Yeah, just Mayor and Council, I did send an email on October 23rd. I can follow up again with Dee on that.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else for open forum, Jessica?
Mayor, no one else has raised their hand. If you'd like, we can give just a moment.
We'll give them a minute here. No one?
No one's raised their hand.
Okay, we'll move on now to
Thanks, Dee.
presentations and recognitions. First one is the resolution honoring Tom Anderson for city council time. It's resolution 2020-93. It's a resolution honoring outgoing council member Tom Anderson. Whereas the city council declared a vacancy following the resignation of a council member at its January 9th, 2020 meeting, and the city council interviewed interested candidates for the vacancy, and whereas the city council of Corcoran selected Tom Anderson as the most qualified candidate following his years of service to the city on the Parks and Trails Commission. And whereas the appointment began on January 23rd, 2020 and continued until a qualified successor was elected in the 2020 general election, who took over the position upon receiving the official election certificate. And whereas Councilmember Anderson during his appointment placed considerable time, effort, and thought into his role of city council member for his temporary term in office. And whereas during his tenure as council member, Corcoran improved its staffing structure, extended water and sewer infrastructure, including drilling a test well, reviewed numerous development proposals, updated the city's core strategies, approved a new 5-year finance plan, provided guidance for a proposed regional trail, approved the City Hall remodel project, drafted the 2021 budget, refinanced bonds saving over $400,000, authorized the implementation of body cameras, and oversaw city operations during the pandemic, including the use of CARES Act funds to support the city. And whereas the city of Corcoran wishes to recognize the time, energy, dedication, and leadership provided by Tom Anderson to the city of Corcoran, now therefore be it resolved by the city of Corcoran that the city council hereby honors Tom Anderson for his distinguished service to the city of Corcoran and residents of the city. I guess that says a lot. And I just want to extend that a little bit, is that I kind of prompted Tom to submit to go on the council and fill the vacancy that was there. And he was a bit of a hesitant participant. So he really hadn't not a big desire to be on there. And he really wanted to stay on the Parks and Trails Commission. And I think he just shows his dedication to the city that he stepped up and took on the job that he wasn't really looking forward to doing, but he put in a lot of good effort on it. He was a very dedicated council member, and I really appreciated to have him there. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add to it.
Could I add to it, Tom, please? Or
You bet.
Yeah, I want to add. Tom's not on the call. I wish I could say this in front of him. If I guess for both Dorothy and Tom, if we're the stems and the branches of Corcoran, those two are the roots. Tom's been here for a long time. A lot of what our trail and town looks like and parks is due to Tom's dedication, and he's tireless and serves. I know this is honoring as city council, but he's tireless in advocating for our town, and I really appreciate him for what he did when he was with us, but especially the last 25 years and maybe more. And then also with Dorothy's the same kind of thing. Dorothy's served on all kinds of commissions, was in City Hall, knew everybody, knew everything that in the history of our town. I love people who speak up. She spoke up and advocated for people that needed advocating for. I'll share a funny story for those of you who know her. You'll appreciate this. I was leaving Madison, Wisconsin to come home from a business meeting like 3 years ago, and I had no idea what I was going to do with the next 4 hours in my car until I saw Dorothy Tice's phone number come across mine and hit answer. And that was about 2.5 hours of my drive from Madison back to the cities. And it was awesome, and I learned a lot, and I was really appreciative of all that you had to say. So thank you, both of you. You'll leave gaping holes, and hopefully we can fill them.
Well, the good news is Tom's going to be on that, as we'll address later in this meeting, is we'll be continuing the service. But thanks, Tom, to John, for the comments.
Yeah, I have to say that the great thing about Tom is, he not only thinks about Corcoran in the here and now, he thinks about the future of Corcoran with the development of our parks and trails and recreational opportunities for kids, not only the kids in the city of Corcoran, but the kids that come into our community, and thinking of the wildlife and the natural environment that attracts so many of us to this city. So it's great having someone like Tom involved. So I'll save my comments for Dorothy for later when her turn's up.
Yeah, I'm the shortest tenured guy here, and obviously the other people here have served with Tom longer, but I just have grown to appreciate what I just say his approach to fairness and giving everybody a hearing, and I really think that that's very important, and I've just grown to respect Tom and appreciate him very much for the service to our city. He's a fair man.
Right.
Not to pick a fight with Brian, but I believe I'm the shortest tenured person here.
Oh,
I was gonna correct him on that. But I figured that was up to you to make that one.
Yeah, I'll count
what
for
I meant
that
was
one.
up until his
For sure.
resignation, until his replacement.
Okay.
So, thank you.
All right. Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-93 as presented.
So
So
moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bottoма,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
Nichols,
Hi.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we go on to the next long-serving and root of the city. This is a resolution 2020-94, which is a resolution honoring outgoing Charter Commissioner Dorothy Tice. Whereas the city of Corcoran has accepted a resignation notice from Dorothy Tice from the Charter Commission, which is her final remaining commission. It's interesting, we have to note that it's one of many commissions that she's been on, which is a worthwhile notation. Whereas the City Council reluctantly accepted this resignation at its November 12th, 2020 meeting, and whereas Dorothy Tice has shown an incredible dedication to the Corcoran community by participating in many levels of government, including serving on the Charter Commission for more than 10 years, serving on the Planning Commission for more than 8 years, and 4 years serving on the Corcoran City Council. And whereas the City Council previously acknowledged Dorothy Tice in Resolution 2019-43, following her resignation from the Planning Commission, and whereas outside of Dorothy's council and commission role, she has been a dedicated resident, providing thoughtful and insightful recommendations on the city business on many occasions. And whereas the City of Corcoran recognized the time, energy, dedication, and leadership provided by Dorothy Tice during her decades of involvement in the city. And whereas Dorothy Tice is a model citizen who has had a significant impact on the City of Corcoran. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Corcoran that the City Council hereby honors Dorothy Tice for her distinguished service to the City of Corcoran and residents of the city. Yeah, the other thing I'd like to add is, and this is true for Tom as well, but over the years I've been on the council, as we've gone through 3 iterations of the comprehensive plan, and it's they've both been big participants and big adders to that, and they've brought a lot of the broad perspective of the citizens that have been involved in the comp plan process, and that's been another big thing which we probably should have noted on both these resolutions, because it's some really meaningful things that they've done, although there's been a lot of other citizens in it as well. So and I just Dorothy's just a sweetheart. She's she always says what she thinks, and she's not bashful about it, and I've really appreciated that over the years. She's been a great person to be checking and balancing the city, and bringing her perspective to and her history to the process. So thank you, Dorothy, for all you've done. Anyone else wish to comment? I know John's already gotten his shot at his input on that, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, I would just like to add that I was fortunate to be on the Planning Commission with Dorothy. I got to sit right next to her from day one through my whole time on the Planning Commission. She was a great mentor. She taught me a lot about city and city government and the history of the city of Corcoran and the surrounding areas. She would pull news clips out of newspapers and things from the League of Minnesota Cities, information, and hand that to me and say, here, read this, learn this. You know, she was just a valuable asset to have in that commission, and especially somebody that was new to city government. And I can't say enough about what Dorothy did for the city. Should be missed.
Yeah, 23 years ago, when we were the new kids on the block here in town, Dorothy was one of the first smiling faces and welcoming voices to us. And she helped us learn the ropes and walk through our process, was a behind the scenes advocate and an encouragement to me in our early years of establishing our church being built. The serving with her on the Charter Commission has been also a great joy. And she's always had a great wit as well as wisdom at the same time. And she certainly will be missed. And hopefully she'll keep paying her phone bill so we can call her and get the occasional advice from her. So thank you, Dorothy.
Okay, well, thank you all. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-94 as presented.
I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion.
Sorry, you got it. I'll second it.
You can second it, Al. Go ahead. Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you, Dorothy. We'll miss you a lot. So.
Yes.
Okay, now we move on to the consent agenda. They're consisting of items 7A, B, and C. Does anyone wish to pull any of the items off of the consent agenda for special consideration? You're hearing no request. I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 7A, B, and C as presented.
So
So
moved.
Second.
Bodema.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have no planning business, so now we'll move on to unfinished business, which consists of item 9B, because 9A was pulled off of the agenda for future action. So the unfinished business consists of the City Hall remodel update. At this time, we'll take public comments if anybody wishes to comment on the City Hall remodel update. So if you wish to do so, be recognized by Jessica and she'll put you on.
Thanks, Mayor. If you want to press *9 on your phone or press the raise your hand button under the participants tab, you can participate. At this time, we don't have anyone raising their hand.
We'll give it a second, but okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the City Hall remodel update. Brad, I assume you're running that.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. And Jessica, I do have one slide just to briefly go over, but just an update on finances and action related to the City Hall remodel project. At the last meeting, the council authorized 10 action items, and one was the purchase of furniture for the remodel project. And that's been a significant effort pulled together by Jessica and Matt, going room by room and really updating where things are at. Wold provided an update of furniture at 120,000. And the first go through, and Jessica and Matt are working on state contract pricing with a couple different vendors. Landed finally on a vendor, and their first go at it was $188,000, which is obviously significantly more than the estimate provided by the architect. They worked as hard as they could to really deduct as much as they could, so they cut out $16,500 worth of kind of soft items, or I shouldn't call them soft even, items that we really should have, but we just can't get down to. And it had a finalized quote of $171,500. What I've done at this point is reallocated the funding mechanism to put $151,500 to the remodel budget for furniture. And we've been squeaking out funds in the existing 2020 budget to purchase some of the items, really focusing on chairs, and then furniture being the majority of the portion for the remodel budget. So with that, I still do think we can come in on budget. So I've really updated our projections. So construction stays the same. Technology, I have a reduction there, and that's based upon some of the needs that we projected versus we finalized. And those things also that we accomplished with the CARES Act are complementary to what we're doing with some of the remodel items as well. So there's some savings there. Again, the furniture budget increasing, soft costs keeping that at the $90,000 level. So at this point, I still think we're at the $726,500. There will be a couple of small change orders coming forward that we're finalizing on costs. But even with that, I have some money in the soft cost to cover potential change orders. So, but I want to keep the council in the loop of where we're at. The claim for the furniture cost will come, I believe, at the next meeting. We did have to order it as soon as possible. We have a window the last week of January to ideally move the furniture into phase 1 so we can move out of phase 2. And it had to be made. So big kudos to Jessica and Matt for really drilling this down, using multiple vendors to get as low as we could. But at the end of the day, we need desks, we need chairs, we need place for our people. So that's as low as they could get it. So no action by the council at this time. Just wanted to keep you all informed and be 100% open about the action that's been taken. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
I guess, Brad, just
Sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
I guess I was just going to say, because somebody will be asking this, is there a reason why Wold was so far off on their estimate? I mean, is it just that they just blew it, or do they have an explanation for that?
At this point, I've kind of given up trying to get explanations on
Okay.
some of the estimating from Wold. I thought we were pretty close. There certainly the furniture plan that they estimated is slightly different than the one we put to Provolve in the company. It's not nearly as big as the finance gap we're talking here. So it really comes down to an estimate. I mean, they're not finished fronts on cabinets. I mean, this is as plain Jane as some of this stuff can get. So I don't think it's anything above and beyond what we were talking about.
Okay. Jeremy, did you have something?
I was just going to ask what the technology changes were in order to get it down by 32,000.
Yeah, so Chair and members, majority related to some assumptions we had about cost. We had best guess back in the day before quotes. And then again, we were able to accomplish some items with the CARES Act that we were thinking about accomplishing with the City Hall remodel in order to get us up to speed from a technological standpoint. So it's really related to quotes or estimates coming into actual quotes, and then taking advantage of some of the CARES Act funds to get our council chambers where it needs to be beyond what we had expected to do with this remodel project.
Okay. Very good. Some good
Okay.
things do come out of COVID, I guess.
Not very darn many.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. I guess that was just for information for us, right, Brad? You don't need any action. Okay. We'll move on to new business, which consists of item 10A, B, C, and D, which is the budget levy hearing, the 2021 full part-time seasonal wage schedule, 2021 general fund budget and property tax levy, and the Parks and Trails Commission appointment of Tom Anderson. Now, the budget level, we have we'll be taking comments on that individually, right, Brad?
Correct. That is a formal public hearing, the first item on the agenda.
So we won't take public there's no point in doing public comments on that now at this point in time. Wait till we go to item 10A to comment on the budget and levy hearing. So basically we'll take public comments at this point in time on 10B, and for all practical reasons, B and D, because C is going to be tied into the budget as well. So kind of complicated, but basically this would be a good time to comment on the 2021 full to part-time seasonal wage schedule or the Parks and Trails Commission appointment.
And anyone who would like to speak can press *9 or use the raise your hand function. At this time, we don't have anyone raising their hand, but could wait if you like.
Okay, well, they had quite a bit of time while I was blabbering away there, so they probably have had enough time. So we'll move on and cover item 10A, which is going to be a budget and levy hearing for the 2021 budget and property tax levy. So we have to open the public meeting, right, Brad?
For the public hearing, correct.
So I'll declare the public hearing open for comment at this point in time for the budget and levy for the 2021 budget and levy property tax.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. And Jessica, I got the slideshow there. And for the past several years, just Mayor and Council, I've chosen to do the slides in advance and put them in the packet fully and really kind of go through them verbatim, just because the budget and levy are pretty important and making sure people have the adequate time to go through everything. So I know this is a little different what I normally do for other items, but it's been typically, this is a $6.8 million budget. It's a big deal. I'm really trying to be open with everything. So that's why it's a little different. But as far as the process to date, every year in April, that's your opportunity to challenge the valuation or classification of properties. And that was a little bit different this year. We actually had the open book meeting canceled due to the pandemic, and appeals were to be received via phone and email. From what I heard from the assessor, it went fine. I did not hear anything from residents as far as that not working, but they're a little different this year than typically in the process, where you could come in at the meeting date, meet in person with the city assessor and walk through everything. But that had to be done via phone and email this year. In June and July really is when staff begin drafting the budget formally. I mean, throughout the year, we make notes of things and we're ready to go, but June and July internally is when we draft it. And it's with the department requests and resources needed to meet the goals and objectives of the city council. This year we had a goal setting session, for example, and we had to accommodate certain things there. On June 23rd, the city council reviewed the first draft of the budget and provide staff direction. And after which next slide, Jessica. After which the staff in August really refined the budget based upon that direction, as well as kind of seeing where the things were going with COVID and any other decision making that had to happen. Then on September 10th, the council reviewed the updated draft of the budget and adopted the preliminary levy at that meeting. Next slide, please. In November, individuals received their property-specific notices from Hennepin County based upon information that we adopted the preliminary levy with, and that's an example of what was sent out to the property owners. Next slide. And really it was, I believe, good news for the people of Corcoran. The city received a proposed tax rate showing just under 43% for the tax rate, 42.846. And that's quite a bit lower than the current 45.013 and lower than my projections, obviously, that I brought to the city council. And really what I've found through this is that I work off of the assessor's tax capacity throughout the year. The auditor doesn't release their formal tax capacity used to develop tax rate until well after we adopt the preliminary levy, which is somewhat on a frustrating pace. And I talked with Tammy Omdahl of Northland Securities to really see how we can do that. And I think we have a better process for next year. We can get a little closer. It's never going to be perfect, but this is really too far off. And as I think I joked with email for the council, I mean, we pinched this budget pretty tight with all the growth taking place. And I probably would have liked to have a few more things included, but here we are. We can't increase the levy after the preliminary levy is adopted. We actually do, however, even have a couple decreases. I know in the report I said it was about a $4,000 decrease. That was the general fund portion only. We also had a debt service levy decrease following the refinance of bonds. So really, this levy tonight is a little over $9,000 less than even the preliminary levy based on certain things, including where actual health insurance rates came back. We had budgeted a 10% increase and saw closer to a 6%, and a few other things like that that really kind of flowed through the budget. So tonight, then, we're at the budget meeting, the truth and taxation hearing, essentially. And the goals for the hearing is to walk through the budget and levy and to hold a formal public hearing to receive comment for those who are interested. Next slide, please. There's some terms we'll be using. Revenue, this is money received by the city from taxes, fees, charges for services, permits, fines, those things. Expenditures, those are money spent towards the operation of the city, including all of our services, supplies, repairs, salaries, everything there. We have the general levy. These are property tax dollars needed to fund the operations of the city, otherwise known as the general fund. And essentially that's the gap. We have so much revenue that comes in from some sources and everything else is filled up by the general levy. And then we have the debt levy. These are tax dollars needed to pay for the debt of the city. So the next slide shows how we get to the full property tax levy. It's the general levy plus the debt levy, which equals that property tax levy. Next slide, please. Thank you. For revenue, incremental approaches here as far as where the revenue comes from. We're looking at 74% of our revenue coming from property taxes in 2021. This is continually lowered as we've had growth and different fees for services coming through, including building permits and other items. I think a few years back we were well over 80%, 82, 83%. Now we're down to 74% roughly for our revenue for the city of Corcoran. Next slide, please. This is where it goes. We are projecting an $825,000 increase in revenue and expenditures. The revenue, one is the general levy, that's the gap, the increased gap needed to fill to cover the cost of the city, and also with the debt levy increasing. General government, city hall operations for revenue. Some of this is increased projected to new home construction, building permit revenue. Public safety, we actually have reduced fine revenue. Certainly this year with the pandemic, it's been really difficult to do a lot of proactive enforcement. We also don't have a commercial vehicle inspector on staff at this point and a few other things. So that's a reduction for next year, just seeing this continue forward for the time being. Good news in revenue for public works. We have additional MSA revenue, municipal state aid revenue. And this is based upon action that Kevin asked the council to take a year or so back, readjusting the routes for state aid roads and actually receiving some additional revenue based upon those allocations. So a really forward-looking items from years previous. Small change in recycling, and then an increase in transfers in. And this is truly 100% related to the water and sewer fund. So we allocate a percentage of time, staff time, to certain staff positions to maintain the water and sewer system. And those are separate budgets that operate differently from the general fund. So they help pay the general fund for those salaries of the individuals. So moving on to expenditures on the next slide, please. Again, pretty incremental here with where the expenditures go. Probably the biggest change is the increase in administration, a couple %, and that really relates to additional expenditures also needed that go along with those building inspections. So we get revenue that comes in, we have to have work that goes along with them. So that's probably the biggest change there, and everything else being pretty incrementally percentage-wise. Next slide, Jessica. Where the money goes, again, so administration, that's where building inspections we put out of. So there's an increase there. We also have a 2.75% wage adjustment for staff throughout all the positions. We have a full year of the planner position that was projected to be a mid-year start for 2020. We actually started it late in the year to have that position for year-round in 2021. We have to finish that up. Parks, Public Works and Parks, we have the wage adjustment, additional staffing. We're moving a position over from administration, really because the planner came in and moving that code compliance official position into a Public Works position. Increased cost of items, supplies. As far as police, again, a 2.75% increase, a wage adjustment. We have a new sergeant position, additional CSO and part-time permit technician hours there. Fire is our contract increases. For transfers, we actually have a decrease. We have funded the City Hall remodel at this point, so we had less transfers needed at that time. And then debt service, as I talked about earlier, per debt schedule. So again, that same amount of revenue difference in expenditures, just a zero up there. Next slide, please. So where we're at, the proposed 2021 budget really is 8.3% increase in overall budget, as you see there. Sorry, that's actually just the levy. I apologize. The levy being up at $5,045,377, which is an 8.3% increase. Next slide will show actually what that impacts for tax rate, however. So although it's an increase of 8.3%, we have a pretty significant deduct in our tax rate. And actually with the additional near $10,000 deduction, it'll be slightly lower than that as well. Next slide, please. So as far as impacts, it really depends on property value. Our tax rate is stable for everybody, but your tax capacity changes based upon your valuation. So residential properties on average were a 3.6% increase. Agriculture went significantly up, as did commercial and industrial. Focusing specifically on residential, if your property increased by 3.6%, you actually have a decrease in city taxes of $15. So like anecdotally, I clicked around on different properties, and unless your property value increased by 5% or more, you typically received a tax decrease for residential property. So pretty significant, I think really good financial management of the city to manage the increase in load on the city while making sure the existing residents don't have to pay for that new load. Next slide, please. There we go, thank you. As far as where your tax dollars go, we're looking at about $125 a month. And I continue to think that's just a really exceptional value. I got my cell phone bill yesterday for me, $89 and some odd cents. So for $125 for city services, it's pretty good. $31 for all of administration, a couple bucks for planning and engineering. For all your public works and parks, $36 a month. For police, as I come to your doors, $32 a month. Fire, $8 a month. And then transfers and debt service needed to operate the city, $15 a month. So again, for the average value home, $125 a month, I think that's still a really good value. And I think that's what really matters. You can say tax rate, budget, all you want, but what's the value of your tax dollars for the city? And I think it's a good value in Corcoran. Next slide, please. So that's all I have. Next step is to hold the levy hearing, and then we'll ask the council to consider adopting the budget and levy later in this meeting. It could wait till later on in the year to the next meeting, typically because of the staff time to file reports with the county. We've asked the council to adopt the budget and levy at the same meeting. If there is significant research, questions, comments, that could be something tabled to following meeting, but that will be the request later tonight. So that's all I have. And again, the action item is to hold the public hearing.
Okay, I think I already did declare the public hearing open, but I'll do that
Yes.
again, just in case somebody missed it. So anyone wishing to comment on this issue, you could be recognized by Jessica, and she'll put you on to give us your comments.
Thanks, Mayor. You can press *9 on your phone, or you can click the participants button and then raise your hand. We don't have anyone who's raised their hand.
Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Fatima.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Fatima,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brad. Great job on the budget and on the presentation. Okay, now we'll go on to item 9B, which is the full-time, part-time, and seasonal wage schedule.
Thanks, Mayor and Council, and I have a brief slide on this as well, Jessica, I believe anyway. Throughout the year, we look at staffing increases for compensation. What we proposed earlier in this year and continue to propose here is a 2.75% increase for overall scale for all positions. And that's based upon, really we're in the middle of a 3-year contract with the one union we have with the police officers. And when the city council really reviews that contract, they try to think big picture how we're treating all the staff. There's other items beyond wages in the union contract, of course, but it's really talking about how we're going to treat the staff moving forward. So That's really how we came to the 2.75% earlier this year. So that's the recommendation, and it is included in the budget that you're looking at authorizing tonight. There's two other items included, asking for authorization for myself to approve step increases for eligible employees contingent upon a satisfactory performance evaluation. We have 24 employees. If you don't allow me to do this, then I essentially have to bring each and every employee's step increase to you at the council meetings for consideration. And really, I feel as, me working with the department heads to do the annual evaluations, it's up to me to make sure they're making progress that way. And then the third item is authorizing myself to approve the hiring of part-time, not tie, and seasonal employees for positions approved in the 2021 budget. So these are things like seasonal maintenance workers, seasonal snowplow operators, ice rink attendants if we have them, just to keep the operations moving quickly. And again, only if they're already approved in the budget. So these aren't new positions that are coming forward. So with that, looking for council to approve the resolution authorizing the wage schedule for the city.
Any questions for Brad? Comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-95 as presented.
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bottom,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 10C, which is the 2021 general fund budget and property tax levy itself.
Mayor and council, I do have a slide here, but really it's the same thing I just went over with the budget hearing. Just one note, I guess I did look back. This is our lowest tax rate since back in 2012. So, and that was really before when we were relying on some TIF funds and other things to keep the levy down. So I think it's pretty significant that the councils continue to do what they said they're going to do over the past several years, is increase services as needed to meet the needs of the city while making sure we can continue to be financial good stewards and keep the tax rate where it needs to be for our residents. So that's all I have. Just looking for the council to adopt the resolution for the budget and levy.
Any questions, comments?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Actually, Brad,
Yeah.
could you go back to your presentation before to the revenue section where you had the pie charts? Yeah, so it'd be interesting to know, the impact on the 2021 budget by category is obviously driven by growth in the city for the additional fees over property taxes. It'd be interesting to know what a typical city looks like that's built out, what that percentage. My guess is we'll probably get back to what we were before, or even slightly higher, driven on property taxes over fees. And then some I've been kind of asking for a few years, but it'd be nice to get, is if we could get a pie chart that shows the difference between residential, commercial, industrial, where that revenue makeup comes from on the property tax side. It'd be interesting to see, and then if we could see that over time, as I think one of our goals was to increase commercial growth, lessen the tax burden on residential property tax payers. So to see that change year over year might be interesting. Something
Thanks.
for the future.
Yeah, thanks. And Mayor and Council and Councilmember Schultz, to your point on the growth city, it certainly would depend whether, there are amenities such as ice rinks, community centers, where revenue comes in that way. But I think you're right. Both full-grown city would likely have a higher percentage. Tomorrow, I will put those pie charts together and send them to the city council. I sincerely apologize for that.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, John.
I mean, we're going through this really fast, and it's really important for people to know that we've been working on this all year. I know Brad mentioned it, but this isn't the first time we've seen these numbers and analyzed it and had meetings with Brad to go over them. So a lot of thought. This is probably the most important thing we do each year. So a lot of thought has went into it over the course of the last 6-9 months.
It's a great point, John. I think it is easy for us to have. We've lived with this for quite some time and have delved into it deeply. So it could come across as being rather flippant when we discuss it for 10 minutes, then pass it or not. I guess without a lot of changes. So there have been changes. There's been a lot of back and forth on it. So great point, John.
I just had a quick question here about the fee difference from 22 to 26. Brad, is that basically due to the fact that there's an expectation of more building permit fees to be issued and there's going to be an increase that way? Is that where the increase is coming from?
Mayor Coulter, for the most part, correct. I think we projected 148 homes in the 21 budget, which potentially is low. I think we only had, gosh, I'm questioning myself, 70, 75-ish projected in the 2020 budget. And that also goes to in the expenditure category where administration costs go up by a couple percentage points as well to offset those, because there's obviously costs that go along with those building inspections.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Those fees are not money makers for us. We're charging them to cover expenses that we've had on the other side of the formula. So we're not going to get rich by charging fees. Any other questions, observations? Hearing
I
none.
have one question. Going back to the pie chart for revenue. So we have property taxes and we have fees. There's a category that's at 0 for local government aid. Could you explain for me and for the public what that would entail and whether we used to get it or will get it in the future and why it's pertinent?
Thank you, and I overlooked that now year after year. It's really kind of a whiny point that I make every year that I didn't actually verbalize this year. I normally do. There's 853 cities, and many cities, like up to 30% of us, maybe 40% of it, get 0 local government aid, which is really a tax collected by the state and then put out based upon a couple different factors that are pretty convoluted, pre-1970s housing stock and different things. And the formula has not been updated. So, for example, when I worked in a smaller city, Winstead, years back, LGA, that is called local government aid, was a significant portion of the budget, 40% of the budget coming in from outside sources. And the way the formula is set up now, the city of Corcoran gets nothing. Representative Hertas has been pushing a bill, who's our representative, pushing a bill for the last couple sessions and got some legs actually last session, where at least a small portion of that would be earmarked to cities who don't get LGA based upon the current formula, and then pushed out basically on a different formula, depending on what class city you are. So it's really meant to be a whiny point that the city of Corcoran doesn't get any LGA from the state of Minnesota, even though our infrastructure supports other people that are coming through our city, using our roads, coming to our parks, and really causing expenditures for us, and we don't get anything in return as compared to some cities. So thank you for bringing that up.
That I asked. Thank you, Brad.
It could be this could be a half an hour discussion, but I won't delve into all of that. It's a mess and complicated.
The LGA, John?
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. And it's a good example of what I would call inefficiencies at the government level. And I think Hertas has been a good representative for us in this and in a lot of other areas, and I think that should be recognized on our part. I appreciate a lot of his efforts over the years that he's put in. He gets it. He understands what a city like Corcoran is all about, and he does a good job of representing us as such. So he should get a kudo for that, and I'll give him one. Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution 2020-96, which is adopting the 2021 budget and levy as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call. All in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bodema.
Aye.
Lothar.
Aye.
Nichols.
Okay.
And Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, staff. I know there's a lot of work gets put into this, and as John noted, this is not something that gets done overnight. It's been a lot of time put into it, and it's a remarkably good job with our budget and our 5-year comprehensive, our 5-year financial plan. Really sets us up as I think sets us aside from other cities of our size or even a lot larger than us, and really I think we stack up very well in our control of our finances. So, and we should be proud of our staff for doing that and thankful to them.
Good job. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Brad.
Okay, item 10D, Parks and Trails Commission appointment, Tom Anderson.
Mayor and Council, just a brief staff report there. I think we have a fairly competent individual who would like to go back to the Parks and Trails Commission if you're so interested. As you noted earlier, this meeting on January 23rd, Tom was appointed to the council. And at that point, the council elected to not fill the vacancy left on the Parks and Trails Commission. Really just thinking or knowing that Tom would want to go back to the Parks and Trails Commission, and obviously he's a great resource. But to that end, we would need a motion from the council to appoint Tom Anderson back to the Parks and Trails Commission to fulfill his term ending February 29th, 2022.
I'm going to step out of character here a little bit, and I'm going to make a motion to appoint Tom Anderson to the Parks and Trails Commission to fulfill a term ending in February 29th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? I would just like to make a statement that to thank Tom for having stepped out of that role for the time when he was on the council, and you know, as I said earlier, kind of stepping forward when the city could use him. So appreciate it. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bodema.
Strong aye.
Nichols.
Aye.
Lothar.
Same here. Aye.
And Schultz.
I plus.
Okay. You guys, all the dramatics here. Okay. Item 11, which was staff reports, which on the pandemic response and financial performance report. So 11A, pandemic response updates. I'm sure we'll hear from Matt on that partly.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The total tests for the state for COVID were up to about 367,000 cumulatively. Hennepin County's almost 77,000 of those tests with 1,200 deaths. I'm sure you've heard about the spike that we're in the middle of right now. The good news is from yesterday to today, the positive test rate has gone down to 8.5%, which is down 3% from yesterday. So hopefully that's a trend that continues. ICU beds remain pretty close to maximum capacity across the state. Along with the good news, we continue to receive more information on the vaccines and their potential release in Minnesota. They're hoping to get the first release of some of the Pfizer vaccine next week in Minnesota, and Moderna the next 2 weeks after that. So, and really with the first doses available, they're hoping to try and vaccinate our hospital and medical staff, followed by our long-term nursing staff, COVID testers, community vaccinators, and essential workers that are responding to it would be after the hospital healthcare workers. So that would be the police, firefighters, and those that are basically being called to homes to respond to the pandemic. And in that same phase one is also adults with high risk medical conditions and adults that are 65 plus. So they have their first tier identified, and there's little rank order prioritizations within there, but they're really starting to get the plan rolled out. And that's just another layer of consideration for municipalities and public health as we're moving forward, that, you know, in addition to managing the pandemic, we're now managing vaccination efforts coming up. So that's really the big picture. On the city level, we continue to operate with a virtual EOC. Right now, it's really important that we're attending the meetings and we're in the loop as to what's happening with vaccinations to make sure that we're, that we keep our spot in line as we would need to. Again, at the city level, we're working on modified schedules, trying to reduce contact wherever possible. but it's getting harder and harder, obviously, as we have more things that we need to accomplish as it relates to the remodel and just day-to-day business. We're busy, so I'll pass it to Brad and Jess for anything they have to add.
Thanks, Matt. As far as general updates, Jess continues a great job with managing the staff at City Hall. We are still open 8 to 4. Ideally, most business can be done by phone or email, and we prefer that, but those who need to come in can. We have a skeleton crew at City Hall that Jessica is managing, thankfully, and which just puts a whole nother layer as well on who's doing what. And if you only have 1 or 2 people here, that means when Mike's here trying to do his work, he's always covering the counter, as is Shauna, Michelle, Joe. It's an extra burden for them to do another job, just so we have skeleton crew here. So a good job for her team on that. We do have one other item tonight, and typically it would be nothing we would ever bring to the city council, but it's specifically related to this, the ice rinks this year. And at the staff level, you might be wondering why we're talking about it. Well, we've been really focusing on our preparedness plan, which really talks about limiting exposure as much as humanly possible. And as we talk about the ice rinks, it really somewhat contradicts the efforts we're trying to take in other areas. However, it's very limited opportunities these days for people to get outside, recreate. And really what we're looking for tonight is direction from the council, and consensus or is just fine, but direction at the council level whether or not to move forward with the ice rinks. As mentioned in the report, really opening ice rinks certainly could lead to additional transmission depending on human behavior, how people choose to act. On the other end of the spectrum, it's a really nice amenity to have that people can choose to use or not use based upon their own individual level of safety or discretion that they're using in their lives these days. But at the staff level, I'll not beat around the bush, it's cover. If people get angry at us saying, why did you open these rinks? We can say the council directed us to do so. So similarly, if we don't open it, we can say the council directed us to do so. We get beat up enough these days and really don't want to have to take that one. It really is a policy level item. What actions are we taking? What are we opening? What are we not opening? With that, I'll stop there. Jessica, did you have anything to add from your end standpoint?
Nope, we're just trying to make it through. And thank you guys all for your support, and we're happy to have people come into City Hall.
So Brad, do you want direction on the ice rink tonight?
Yeah, I guess whether it be just by consensus or if there's any feelings one way or the other on the ice rinks, I think I can guess where the council's at, but would like some direction, correct?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll sort of just put my foot in the fire on it. I strongly urge us to open the ice rinks. I think we're being under socialized, and I think it's a huge burden on people not to be out and about. And if this is a great case, in my opinion, of people can make their own decision. If they want to be out there, they're outside. They can practice any kind of behavior if they think is appropriate for them, and if they choose to do so, they're able to. And I think we should make that available. So I understand that could be controversial. So
does opening the ice rinks also mean opening the warming houses, or would we just have the rinks without the warming houses?
Thanks, and great question. At this point, we'd be thinking just the rinks themselves and not have the warming house. We actually got a quote on putting a timer on the lights, so we wouldn't even need somebody to come out there to open, turn off and turn on the lights. So at some point, it gets to be, if someone's out there, they need to be enforcing rules, and to expect a 16, 17-year-old to enforce, are you part of the same family? Are you 6 feet apart? Are you following Executive Order 2020-64? It just at some point you have to just say, here's the conditions that exist. And with that, we've talked about what if conditions deteriorate. And I talked to Pat and his team, and they are confident that there's a way to just shut down the rinks. We'd put cement barriers at the entrance. If there's some reason why it just got out of hand, we would just shut the rinks down altogether and be done for the year, whether that's throwing salt on the ice and putting barriers out. We don't foresee that happening, but we've talked about those just in case items. But for the time being, we're thinking, Public Works be there, they get the ice going every day or thereabouts. And from that point on, it's individuals.
Yeah, I see no, go ahead, John.
Oh, I was going to say that I agree with Ron. I wouldn't even suggest our rink people even discuss COVID. They could enforce the rules we have. Unless we mandate that people go skating every day, I think people can make their own choice on that. It's just like going to a park. And I would say, yeah, you just do the rink. And being outside, people have been cooped up for a year now. It gives them something else to do outside.
I did
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean,
bit of research. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Alan.
well, I was just going to say, I'm totally fine having the rink open. I mean, I don't think we need to open the warming house at all. I'd actually even consider not even turning the lights on, and so that limits people's use of it during daylight hours. That way we don't have to worry about public safety after dark, anyone in the parking lot. And I don't know why we'd even need a rink attendant at all to talk about rules or whatnot. You know, if it's during the daytime, it's probably going to be policed pretty well by, you know, minivan moms and whatnot. So
Karen's.
Yeah, I guess I would favor having the lights on. I would definitely don't think we want the warming house, but I think the lights should be on because it gets dark in Minnesota so dang early that it doesn't leave any room for working parents to get home and go take their kids to the rink. So that'd be my push on that. But Jeremy, you
Yeah, I
wanted to say
think
something?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I did check. Maple Grove is keeping their ice rinks open as well, at least the outdoor ones. For the ones where they expect a lot of traffic, like the skate loop, they have a reservation system, which I don't think we would want to try to implement here. But maybe we could think about a webcam that we put on the website so people can look and see how crowded the ice is before they decide to come in. So if they're concerned about it being too busy, they could avoid that and not have to go through the trip.
Perhaps, but they're not having to drive that far. They could drive by and see it's too busy. But I understand what you're saying, Jeremy. I don't think I think it's a little overkill, but yeah.
Yeah,
Brian, you have,
I agree with you, Mayor. I think the lights are okay. Working parents want to take their kids out. It's tough to get there in daylight hours. I would not be supportive of opening the warming houses, but I am supportive of opening the skating rinks.
any
So
other comments?
do we have to worry about like increased cleaning of porta potties and whatnot there because of COVID?
We've talked about that. So we put porta potties out. We put a couple benches out. You know, the problem with the extra cleaning is what this next person that comes in isn't clean anymore. So if you have 3 cleanings a week instead of 1, you have 2 more safe people. It's something we've kicked around a lot. At this point, we would just probably monitor it and have minimal and see how much use there is.
Okay, so there's no risk of liability or anything like that if we provide that.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I guess I'm reading a consensus here that the rinks be opened normal hours, and you maybe put the lights on timing and timers to avoid having to have attendants be there.
Yeah, Mayor Council, well, certainly consensus on opening. We'd like some discretion on timing. We'll kind of mess with that if we're having certain trouble that happens at 8 o'clock at night versus 9 o'clock at night. You know, we could always play with the timers that way, but we appreciate the direction. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's it for pandemic response update. Okay, let's go to 11B, which is financial performance report.
Mayor and Council, this is something we typically bring you more often throughout the year, but it's just been crazy. But we did do a pretty thorough deep dive in the budget, the 2020 budget, doing some projections of where we're ending up. And our best guess at this point is looking at about a $350,000 surplus for the 2020 budget. And really what that relates to is the conservative nature of the budget. We put everything on hold in March. Hirings, for example, purchases that we normally would do, staffing that we normally would do as well for different things. And then also as well as the assistance from the CARES Act for the public safety funds was certainly helpful. So that really kind of comes down to where we're at. We do have the audit that will take place in April, I believe, that will actually give us the formal amounts of what we're looking at, but we wanted to give you just a snapshot of where we're at for the end of the year 2020, and fortunately we're in really good shape.
Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The budget for 2021, is that is the referendum reflective upon that 300,000? So therefore that would help keep the tax rate low, or is that 300,000 in the 2021 budget thrown in on top of, I imagine we have some discretion on that, but, and we can levy and choose to levy, but we can't make it higher during the year. We can only bring it down, right? The tax rate,
So
once that's set.
yeah, so Mayor and Council, this would be completely separate. So with the levy we just adopted, that is it. Once we send that to the county auditor, that is what we have to live with for 2021. So we could go back and revisit that essentially tonight. I don't recommend it.
No, I'm not suggesting we do. I'm
Yeah,
asking
but-
about
But this
symbol.
would be, yeah, just completely discretionary to look at in April. So if we are this way in April and say they're $350,000, what I'll do, as I've done in typical years, is bring back to the council and considering reallocating it before we close out the audit from 2020 towards either certain purposes, typically helping shore up the reserves is a typical use as well. So in April, we'll likely bring this forward for discretionary discussion. Unless the council really wants to also dig in before then on additional resources for the community, for example, based upon the pandemic. At this point, we're still not hearing much from the Corcoran community. We're pretty limited in the service industry. Sorry, is that answering the question?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm good. I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Okay. 2020/21 council schedule.
Mayor and Council will have the last meeting of the year. Just a note, it's a Monday on the 21st. I did want to discuss one item with the council, and it's really regarding the closed session for my performance evaluation. And being that it's the last meeting of the year, and really looking at, not mucking it up too much for the final meeting for a couple of the members, my question really was whether you wanted to keep the closed session on that meeting of the 21st there. We do have the 6 o'clock meeting beforehand, kind of just casual thank you for outgoing council members. So options would be either keeping it on the agenda on the 21st, or we could schedule the performance evaluation at a special meeting next Thursday and just knock it out before the meeting if the council wanted to, and just to not kind of muck up the final meeting of the year. So I wanted to throw that out there for a discussion point of the city council. If there's any feelings.
Yeah, I'm okay with whatever works for staff. So
I will not be able to participate. I don't think next Thursday I would be able to participate, but I could get back to you on that.
My preference would be to do it on the 21st versus having a separate meeting to cover it personally.
Yeah,
It's hard for me to think. It's hard for me to think, Brad, that you can muck up anything. So I don't think that's a real problem here to me. So I'm fine with doing everything on the 21st myself. I think it's a real busy time of the year for everybody too. So instead of taking another night out of our schedule,
That's true.
Sounds good. So with that, we'll have our typical year in review of the water and sewer budgets, the fee schedule for 2021 as well. A couple resolutions honoring folks. Matt is going through the sergeant appointment process right now. So council did authorize Matt and myself to make that decision. So we'd potentially bring our decision to the council just as an FYI. And then a still staffing transition, and the one planning item, actually the second planning item, they're pretty minor. My plan is to put those on consent at this point. We'll see those moving forward. So that's all I had.
Brad, Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question about the schedule, please?
certainly.
Brad, would you be able to get the Survey Monkey or whatever we do to find a day to do our goal setting? Remember 2 years ago, we did it in March, and that's a quarter of the year. It's really important with 3 new people to do that as early as possible, in my opinion. And I don't want to wait till the 14th to actually set the meeting. We should do that start working on it now, I think. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I certainly can. If there's some direction on that, I certainly can. Obviously, it looks like I saw Councilman Nichols nod his head, and I can certainly reach out to the 3 incoming as well. Or sorry, 2 incoming.
Yeah, I think sooner is better too, as long as people have time on their schedule to accommodate it, for sure.
I didn't see Councilmember Schultz. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, just no work sessions on my birthday again.
What are you, 12?
Yeah. Come over and have some cake and get a hat. Snowmobile season too, so it's hard to give up a Saturday.
I don't think that's a problem this year. We're not getting any snow this year, Alan. Okay, anything else? Any other business from staff? Anything from council?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Lothar.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Thomas, aye. Bodema,
Aye.
Lothar,
Aye.
Nichols,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thanks
Have
for
a good night,
another
guys.
meeting.
Have a good
Thank you
night.
guys for
Thank
good
you
being.
all.
Good to see
Night all.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
Aye.
everyone.